Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where the topic is the future of Project Online, NextGen PPM on the Power Platform. My name is Doug Wellesby, and I'm also joined by my colleagues Jim Patterson and Paul Esterbrooks. During today's webinar, attendees will be on mute and the line will not be open for questions. However, feel free to use the GoToWebinar question feature to submit questions. I'll address these during the webinar and will respond via email if we do not get to your specific question. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away from the webinar, no need to worry, as I'll be emailing a link to the presentation once it has been posted to our YouTube channel. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thank you, Doug, and welcome everybody. Pleased to be here today. And we're excited about this topic about the future of Project Online and what's next for Microsoft for project and portfolio management and how it's being manifested in the Power Platform. So let's first talk about some of the things that brought about the need for a solution like this. And Microsoft realized that there's a need to bridge the work management gap that's out there. There's changes in the marketplace and the needs of the marketplace and the expectations of the marketplace that are driving a lot of this stuff and this innovation. You know, these days, we're not all classically trained project managers. Oftentimes, we have other primary duties and we're dubbed for some initiative or other things as project manager, and we're not necessarily fully trained in the disciplines on how to do so. We find more and more the accidental or occasional project manager is the rule of the day in many organizations. We also believe that collaboration is critical in this day and age of social media and chat and other things like that. It's critical for our success, but today, because we're so distributed and remote now during COVID, it's chaotic and it's happening everywhere, all of this work, and sometimes it's tough to bring it all together. We also want to manage work our way. We have different disciplines and types of work and methodologies and frameworks, whether it be waterfall, agile, or some hybrid of those things. But many of our legacy tools that we've inherited from organizations don't allow us to do what we need to do necessarily in an optimum way. So because of this, teams are now choosing their own tools to succeed. With the advent of the easy access of cloud tools and bringing these things in, whether it be via shadow IT or just piecemeal as bringing different types of tools in, it leads to other things like we want to use our data effectively, but it's all in silos and all these different tools and all this, proliferation of tools bring different data sources. So bringing that data together sometimes can be a mess, and it's a manual mashup that we have to do of data, labor intensive, and the reporting itself is manual to get it into a form and format that people can understand. We also need to make better decisions using this data, but because of this, no one really has the big picture. And because of the effort it takes to pull that data together, oftentimes by the time it's presented, the data might be even slightly stale or a little bit out of date when you see it. So most platforms today, you only get to see some of the business data. There's a lot of information and systems in organizations today, and sometimes you only get to see portions of it depending on your role and what tools you have access to. But most processes and organizations are much more connected than that. You fill in the gaps and you think about the different disciplines, the processes, the work types, the roles and responsibilities, and how those have to interact. These things really touch each other across a process, across an organization, across business units and departments. And so we have to deal with this in some shape or fashion to get better at it. Microsoft is in a unique position to bring all these things together. With its rich set of cloud offerings, whether it be the traditional Office 365 productivity suites or the Dynamics 365 cloud for business solutions, or whether it be your own individual workloads that you're bringing up into Azure itself, it gives Microsoft customers the ability to bring these things together like no other place and no other offering that's out there in the marketplace today. So in a connected work management platform, here's just some samplings of where project and work management things might happen. In Office 365, you got things like Teams and Planner and To-Do and Outlook and SharePoint where a lot of work gets done. We've got Microsoft Project and the new project for the web, which we'll talk about today. For Agile projects, you got Azure boards within Azure DevOps. And then we have process automation and visualization and things like Power BI and Power Apps and Power Automate. The idea here is that bringing this together into a common framework is achievable within this Microsoft platform. So Microsoft's vision and the reason why things are changing today is that teams need to work the way they want, but enterprises still need to get the results that they need. And this is Microsoft's work management vision that we're going to talk about today. So hence, some of you may have heard that Microsoft is not focusing on the traditional Project Online product and solution these days. It's still here, but Microsoft announced in Ignite a plan to reimagine Project at the end of the investment and end their investments in Project Online and move into the new things we're going to talk about today. On these slides, which you'll get later on, you can see a little statement from Microsoft to that effect. And then in the fall of 2019, they launched the new Project for the Web, which is the foundation of what we're going to talk about today in this webinar. And its vision going forward is to provide the PPM capabilities or project and portfolio management capabilities people need, leveraging the overall M365 platform. With that, people are going to say, what's next? And that's the topic of this webinar. Well, Microsoft announced a Project Accelerator at Microsoft Ignite 2020 that's going to bring project and portfolio management capabilities to this new platform, which we'll talk about in more detail. Now, we're proud to say that OnePlan Solutions, we have been enlisted to build this accelerator for Microsoft. And so we have intimate knowledge of it. We have pre-access to that and have actually been working with customers on this concept for many, many months now. And so we're going to talk about the details of this accelerator today. So the new Project Accelerator is actually built on the Power Platform. The Power Platform and Power Apps is really the low-code or no-code platform that spans Office 365, Dynamics, and even other standalone applications that it has access to. And the pieces that you may already be familiar with, Power BI, like many organizations are using as a component of that. Power Automate is there for workflows and process automation and doing workflows. And Power Apps is that rich low-code, no-code app platform that allows us to do a lot of things. And they're all based on a common data source or a common data repository known as Dataverse today, as well as a number of connectors to other different tools. Project for the Web is built on this platform, meaning it's going to leverage the power of the benefits of having this platform, bringing project management capabilities, and now with the accelerator portfolio management capabilities to that mix. Now, with this change, people might be asking, is this a move I should be making? I would say you should be able to feel confident in making this move because of what Satya Nadella is doing at the head and steering Microsoft's direction. Power Platform is one of Microsoft's biggest bets, and Satya Nadella said as early as January 2019 that Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, and Power Platform, on top of what we're doing with Azure, is the core of what we are doing as a company. So if you're considering making this move and going where Microsoft's going, you can feel pretty rest assured that you're going where the ship is steering to, and that you'll be going with the benefits that'll be increasingly made more available over time. So let's introduce the new Microsoft Project Accelerator solution that people sometimes call the Project Accelerator or the PPM Accelerator interchangeably, so I don't want people to get confused with that. The Project for the Web with the Power Platform for project and portfolio management requirements, which is what people who use Project Online today are really going to be concerned about. You know, can I get project and portfolio management capabilities both if I move to this new realm? To be able to handle things like project requests, do program management, and then the member projects and be able to execute on those in details. Can we handle resources and resource management? Can we get the reporting that we need in a much easier fashion than we get with some of the standalone tools that we talked about earlier on with the proliferation challenges? And this is going to be the basis of what we're going to be talking about and showing you today. So how the Project Accelerator works is, if you think about Project for the Web, and people might be building, as you see on the left here, a variety of different project plans and from their own perspectives and their own needs. Where is that data going? Well, as opposed to in Project Online, where these things went into a SharePoint environment and some data was stored a little differently than others, everything is being stored in a central Dataverse repository. This central repository or central storage of data, it makes it possible to do a lot more things than we were able to do seamlessly in Project Online. As you see over here on the right, it gives us the ability to take these individual plans, aggregate them into portfolios of projects, and even add different capabilities that we'll talk about today to flush out all the different components of the not only project schedules, but all the different ancillary pieces of data and aspects of projects that we need to manage over the course of time. And this is all done in Power Apps. So the Project Accelerator solution components that we're talking about, if we look at Project for the Web, that you look at it, it's fairly simple. It allows us to start a project. It allows us to build tasks and work breakdown structures, do the normal things that we would do in a project scheduling tool. It does the basics and allows us to build those. But instead of managing those individually as individual projects, we need to be able to add other aspects to that. So with the Power Platform, we can then add in that accelerator things like the management of risks and issues and change requests, be able to develop and create status reports, be able to have the governance and process that you need in place, as well as to be able to show KPIs and such on the status and the health of the different projects and aspects of those projects. Be able to start at the beginning, be able to have project requests all in the same environment so that you can capture key elements about that, the way you might prioritize, the way you might put business case narrative together, and then at the appropriate time through workflow or other mechanisms, be able to promote those things to projects as they're ready to be executed on. And then the idea of programs, to be able to manage projects in collections of common threaded goals or programs that we manage, because many times program management is key. We have different programs that have different themes or different aspects, or they might be product lines that allow us to have many different projects that are supporting that particular program going on concurrently at any one given time. And then the portfolio insights. People are using Power BI in a big way in a lot of organizations today, and be able to have native feeds of this data and have easy accessibility of it into predefined report packs, and even be able to tailor those so that you have the dashboarding and reporting that you want, is a very strong capability, and what I think of as the payback for actually having the capability of having this solution and this data available all at any given time. So the things that we talk about that are in this new accelerator are the aspects of demand management, which is really the intake and the project requests. And not only that, but reporting that allows us to analyze those requests and help determine what are the best selections of things we should approve and embark upon. The program management, like we talked about, the aggregation of collections of projects by common themes or other aspects, and be able to roll data up into those programs and look at things from a program perspective. The project management details of whether we're managing schedules or whether we're managing resources around those things, or the different modes we might want to be in, allows us to execute on these schedules and task plans in the way that we want to work. And then managing things like risks and issues, having registers and reports around what risks we're facing or we're anticipating, be able to own those and create visibility to the risks that we think may impact us at some point during our projects, or if they actually turn into things that become issues that we actually have to address and assign people and deal with and mitigate. And then the change request process. Project management wouldn't be project management without change. And by having a way to capture such changes as requests, and then have a history and a tracking of what those are and what the impacts are to our projects is very important along the way. Having status reports periodically, whether it be monthly or weekly, be able to easily take the data that's in here and be able to snapshot and create a point-in-time report that we can have visibility to other people and report on or distribute is a powerful piece that it becomes a natural output and takes away a lot of that manual effort we talked about earlier on in the slides about the challenges in the marketplace today. Team collaboration. Being able to leverage Microsoft Teams as the collaborative platform for these Power Apps so that we can have things like conversations and threads and sharing of content, content management and document repositories, common place for meeting notes and other things like that. All that collaboration is there in the power of Microsoft Teams, and it's fully leveraged by having this solution in place. And then the project intelligence. We talked about the reporting, and we'll show this in more detail during the demonstration, but there are report packs to get you started on a lot of these different aspects from a reporting perspective, but it by no means limits you in where you want to take this and tailoring the reporting to your specific organization's needs. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Paul Estabrooks, who will give you a demonstration of these things in action. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm just going to switch to show my screen. Yes. And Jim, you can let me know if we're on the right screen.
Yep, I can see you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Jim. So we're going to walk through this new accelerator today. So this will be what's available coming with the Project Plan 3 license once Microsoft launches this, hopefully towards the end of the quarter. So we're going to walk through this I'm going to try and go into a fair amount of detail and give you a good feel for what you've got here. So I've landed on the home page. So when you first land, and I'm immediately presented with some interesting data that I might want to look into. So I have this option here. I can expand a chart. I can then look at this. I think this is a great feature to see what records of data are actually feeding that particular chart. So I could see where the active requests are in this particular example I chose. I can click on this and it filters. So very quickly, I have access to a lot of this data in a very quick, tactile sort of format where I can touch and click and drill in and drill out of information very fast as I look through this different information. So this is the project request chart that I'm looking at coming right out of the home page. So if that's something I'm particularly interested in, it's an immediate jump right to it and drill and go. So I wanted to highlight that to start. Again, access to data. We're going to stress that over and over again here is the ability to pull data in from all different sources into this environment and bring it front and center for people to access. So that's the home page. So let's sort of spend a bit more time on project requests. So this is my active list of requests. So this is a consolidation point. Microsoft has 250 different links and connectors available through Power Automate. So if you're collecting data today, let's say in a SharePoint list or a web page or some other system, and you want to be able to use that as a source of input in addition to potentially creating a new one here just by clicking on new and typing in the data that I'll show in just a minute, you have that option. So think of this as a place to consolidate that information, bring it together, and start to take action on it. So now if I click on this particular, item, you'll start to see some of the data that's available out of the box, and you can configure this to what you need. First and foremost, this idea that we can analyze this or put it through a workflow in a governance stage. So you may have a specific set of criteria or steps that you need to take in your organization, and you can define that within this solution and start to look at and monitor how things are progressing through, where are they, what stage are they in, what needs to happen next, and so forth. In addition, for this request, I can have a host of information, including prioritization information, scoring, potential cost estimates, benefits expectations, and other details and information here. So I fill out this. Again, that may come from another system. You may have that already today in SharePoint. You want to pull it in, and now you can populate this, potentially add some more data that maybe you're not collecting today, and build out this particular request. And then I have the option using Power Automate. So as part of that Power Platform, that rich story, is to run a Power Automate that would convert this to a project. Now, I may choose to do that here because I can just manually click on it and say, it's time to go. We're going to move this over as a project. Or I could connect it to this process you see in the background and say, at approved, it immediately goes and becomes a project. That's the purpose of approving it. So that's the power of Power Automate. A, I could have used Power Automate to populate this through one of those connectors, but B, I can use it here to drive the stages and ultimately flip this from a request into a project in our system, and on we go and sort of progress the story from there. Okay, so that's requests. So now I look at my different programs, and again, real important point of consolidation or roll-up of information. So this is something, if those of you who've used Project Online in the past, programs was always difficult in terms of what we could capture, what we could do with that. So if I click on one of these and I come in, now I have a rich interface for information about an actual program. It has a narrative, it has a description, it has a scheduled start and end date, it has an owner, and other information I might want to capture about it. And I can configure here what I want to have. It also has financial data. So we've set a program budget, we've set an expected set of benefits, but we've also looked at over here is right now we have budget remaining, meaning the projects that we have in this particular program, which I'm going to get to in a minute, they total 1.1 million or just over. We actually have headroom in the overall program budget where we could add other projects and so forth, however we want to use that money, because we're looking at that budget first as a program, and then the roll up of the budgets of the actual projects. And likewise, you'll see benefits and ROI work the same way. We also have a status. The program itself may have a status in addition to the projects within it, each having status reports, and I'm going to spend some time on that a little bit later. So I can look at this and say, what is my program status? And I, as the program owner, let's say, might come in and provide this higher level status, having looked at the projects within my particular program. And here are those projects. So now I can see a list of the projects, how they're progressing. I can drill into one of them and look at more detail. We're going to spend some time on that in a minute. But you have your full list of the members of your program front and center here. We're rolling up this information. We could also be rolling up risk information or issues information that's being captured at the project level, and I'll demo that a little bit later. So it's a very important point of consolidation for program managers to have that information at their fingertips to make critical decisions on where they're going to redirect resources potentially, where things might be of some concern, they need to look at budget constraints and so forth, because it's all being pulled here and they can report on it, analyze it, and drill into it. Now we're going to spend a bunch of time on the project side. So this is my list of projects. So I can go through this list. You can see here, first and foremost, something that's really, really nice is you can actually edit this on this grid. I don't have to drill into this particular project, do a bunch of information, publish, and come out and see, okay, did that go the way I wanted to? I just updated the status of that project straight from the grid, something we couldn't do before. And then I might want to, click that. I might want to do different groupings, so I could come in here and see all my projects by which stage they are in my process. I might want to look at them by financial health and see where we're at, what's on track and what's not. And I might want to look at them based on budget. Where are we in terms of budget categories and so forth. Okay. I'll go back and look at stage. And now I might want to look at a chart. So I'm going to do charts, show, let's do budget by stage, and I can see where my spend is. And if I click on one of these, as we showed earlier, it drills into the data on the left, or on the right rather, so I can see that. So again, touching that data, interacting with that information, both in chart form and in tabular form in the same UI, very powerful for a PMO to be working with and trying to figure out what's going on with their various projects and where things are at, accessing the data. So now let's drill into the project. So again, another process map here. I have the various create, select, plan, manage as we've often used in these demos, but that can be configured to be what you need to do in your organization. So we can do that same stage gating that we've always done with clients. That's a very important feature. And now I can provide my other summary level information. And then one of the things that people always want to do is capture business cases. So we want to spend some time here with how we might define the business case, how we might prioritize that. You can define what this means. My financials. So I want to define my budget, my current forecast, where am I on actual costs to date. You have this interface here where you can enter that information. Other things like is funding available and other things you may want to track related to finances. On my resources, I'm pulling this resource information from Project for the Web, and we're going to see that here in a minute. But here I'm looking at what are the resources on this particular project, what's their start and end date, what's the total hours they're expected to work on this project, how many of those have they done, and how many do they have left. So very rich information for a PM and for a PMO potentially to look at and say, okay, where are people working and what is the level of commitment on this particular project? I want to see who's on my team and where they are and how far along they are in their work. So now let's look at this from a Project for the Web perspective. So we're going to pull this up. I very quickly and immediately can see that I have the project schedule here. But what I can also do, and for the purposes of this demo in terms of real estate, I'm going to jump out into Project for the Web itself. So you see I clicked on that, it very quickly opened. here is my project for the web environment. So this, I'm going to start with the grid view. I could come in here and mark tasks complete. Maybe hear the little chime. You actually jump back here. You'll notice they're now complete here. So it's in real time, it's moving that back and forth. I have my resources assigned to these tasks. I could come in and say that this particular task is 25% done. So I can add that information. There you go. What I may also want to do is I could add additional columns. This is some new functionality that Microsoft's added in. So I may want to add a new field to track some different data. So you have the option here to track these types of data. So straight text, date, a number, or a flag field. So you can create new fields here to track the kinds of information that you might need to manage your project. What you can also do is we've added a few. So I'm going to show this next, but maybe this has a concept of an agile here that we're actually delivering some of this project in. So I want to show here very quickly which sprint these tasks are in, so I can understand that. So just a different pivot on this particular data. So very quickly, I can interact here with the grid, create new tasks, assign people to those tasks, create start and end dates, edit my details. So if I open up the details here, this is all the information that I can capture about this particular task, create dependencies and so forth. So that's the grid. Now we also have this board view. So as I showed you in the previous view, we have this organized by this particular buckets, and then the buckets we're using are sprints. So we want to be able to demo sort of that agile pivot on this information. So you could see which tasks I have in my sprint. I could change that view and say I want to see who it's assigned to. So you could see that, Alex has got a bunch of tasks, Christine's got a bunch of tasks, and so forth. The administrator, me, does not. Good for me. But I'm going to come back to my bucket. What I can also do is take this particular task here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And pull it in and say, we're going to add it to sprint 2. We need to get that out of the backlog. We're starting to plan out our sprints. That one's over in the backlog. Let's move that particular one into sprint 2. We have capacity there to do that. So very quickly, drag, drop, and now I've immediately moved that into that sprint, and we'll organize from there. Third is this timeline view. So if I come up here, I could say scroll to tasks just so I can look at the project schedule. And now you can see the different tasks. You can add dependencies. Maybe I want to link that to the milestone or something like that. You've got all this capability. If I want to look at the whole schedule, I can zoom it out and have a quick look at it there and see how my schedule is organized. So in the background is the entire Microsoft project scheduling engine. So it's a very powerful, rich tool here. We have these 3 formats that we can spend time on. We can use the grid to define the task, assign the resources, sort of work in a conventional, almost project-like work breakdown structure. We could turn and pivot that to board views, whether you want to use a bucket to organize in a certain way, or you want to organize around resources or progress and other pivots that you may choose to use that make sense for you. And lastly, we can all view it in a timeline or a schedule type Gantt chart type view, so we can see the interdependency of the tasks, where the progress is being made, where are we today, and how are things moving, and what are sort of the knock-on dependencies that we should be aware of. So that's our rich sort of project for the web capability. And when we're pulling all of that data back in here, as I showed earlier, the ones I marked complete are now complete, and the estimated effort in hours for the resources will update as well. Continuing on with the project environment here for project management are things like risks, issues, and changes. And I'll work through each of those. For those of you who've ever used Project Online, this was stuff we put into project sites. Now it is here in this one location as part of this, and the data is stored in the same database in the Dataverse as all of the other data, which is going to make for richer reporting options down the road, and the ability to use that data even frankly in other systems if you needed to. Potentially you want to pull risks and issues up to a CRM environment because that's where you're managing the engagement with the customer for whom you're doing this project. And you want to be able to see that. Those are the kinds of opportunities that this platform provides. So I have a form in here in my Power App where I can come in and provide whatever information that you need to provide for how you want to manage risks. Likewise, issues, same concept. I can provide the different information. So we've surfaced some basic information here, but you could come in, create a new issue, fill out this information, assign it to somebody, do all the kinds of things that we're all used to doing with issues. There we go. And then changes. This is something we added probably to almost every implementation we ever did a project online. We would add a SharePoint list. Here, it's here in the Accelerator out of the box. So you have this ability to define a change and manage that change the way that we've always done with many clients who do this. It's a standard project management process. And here's where we can capture that information. And then lastly, I'll spend a bit of time on status. So here I could come in and provide some status information. We've set up the standard fields of overall health, issue, risk, schedule, and so forth, and then looked at some other data. And down here, we've actually snapshotted past reports. So if I go and create a new status report, let's say this is my January status report, and I can give that in there and so forth, and I can fill out the information that I want to include in my status report. What is this, what did we get done this week? What do we have left to do? What are the other things you might want to be worried about? Again, you can configure this to capture the types of information you want, and then you'd hit save, and you have a new status report added to your list. I'm going to discard those changes. And then I could come here and I could say, well, I want to then build my status report out to Word. So it supports the concept here of then maybe I want to circulate that status report or print it out to take to a meeting. All the things that people traditionally want to do, those things still remain in place. I can click here and say I want to look at my status report. I did that earlier so that you could see it. So we've drawn that data out to a Word template that we can now display here, that information. We format this up a little bit and send that off as part of a submission package or whatever the clients sometimes like to do. We get asked for that frequently, and it's fully supported here in this solution. Next thing that I want to show is I've been showing all of this in Power Apps and all this rich capability, but what we've also created here is a tie back to Teams. Jim mentioned that in his slides around collaboration. So we've actually created in Teams a team site for the same project that I've been working on this whole time. And here you can see all that same information. There's the business case, the financials, there's the actual project schedule right inside Teams, the risks, the issues, the status report. So you could actually come straight through Teams into here and interact with all of this information and make sure that you're, that tight integration with how people are working today. And here we can also have files related to the project. We can have a file structure here for where we have our working documents or our templates and so forth. We can have posts and chat. All of that interaction with the project team now occurs for most organizations these days. Teams is sort of becoming the prevalent source of that. And so we've linked these two environments very quickly to create this user experience where from Teams, I can engage in those same Power Apps, that same user experience that I've been demoing, but I don't actually have to go to a different environment. It's all front and center here for me. I'm going to round out this demo by spending a bit of time on reporting. So as Jim mentioned in his slides, as Jim mentioned in his slides, at the bottom of that chart with the different components is Power BI. So I'll jump back here to the start. Is some of these dashboards I would have shown a bit earlier. We saw some of these in screenshots. Here we have a report pack that we've included with the Accelerator to help organizations immediately take advantage of the rich data that they're capturing here. So if I want to come in here and say, well, show me, what are all my requests by internal readiness, maybe other, security, and as I do that, obviously Power Apps immediate, or Power BI rather, adds to that data, it pivots and moves the chart as we see fit, as we want to drill into some of this information. I may want to look at my program health, look and see what's on track. I may want to drill in and see my program financials. Look at this and say, well, I want to look at just the active projects, probably the same data. Okay, so I have this ability to filter and sort. I want to look at my portfolio dashboard, maybe zoom in on a particular program and see how that program is performing. We've got some overdue tasks. I might want to drill into that more, and I'll click through to that in a minute. I like this view, so I want to look at my portfolio timeline and see how all these projects are interrelating, color-coded based on progress or based on health, or however you want to look at that. So I can see my different information here very quickly. This is looking at it based on project manager and who owns which projects. That's helpful. my resource dashboard. So now I can look at where we are in terms of all my tasks and who's working on what, who's heavily loaded. You can see that Megan here has a lot of upcoming remaining work to do. We might want to look at that in more detail. And we could do that by looking at the resource assignments. And here we could see how each resource is working, what projects they're on, and specifically what tasks they've been assigned. This is data coming from Project for the Web. This is where we assign that work to this particular individual. It's all in a central database. I can pull it all up. We can look at it, drill into it, and make some resourcing decisions around whether or not it's realistic that a person could do that work, or would potentially take action around how we might do that. We have in here a risks dashboard as well, so we can look at our different risks and where they are located, what projects are driving those. We get asked for these reports constantly, and these are a very powerful and useful dashboard. Issues dashboard as well, and then your changes dashboard. So you can see what changes are out there, what projects they're impacting, what state they're at, what priority they might have, and all of that information to make decisions on, are we seeing a lot of changes come out of one particular program or one particular project, or one particular stakeholder, however you may want to look at that data, but you have that rich capability here to do that. So a couple of things just to wrap up and summarize. One, there's a lot of rich power here in terms of consolidating information and engaging other parts of the business, whether that's through the intake of ideas from other systems using Power Automate connectors, whether that's engaging audiences to help update and status tasks, engage in risks and issues, and being able to surface that data through Power Apps and through Power BI. Because it's all sitting in this one dataverse in the background, it gives us a great deal of capability to how we consolidate, how we view the data, and how we work with it. Next week, we're going to do a second webinar, because for some people, there's still capabilities here that they want to go past this. There's some sophistication things that they're looking for and how we might extend this. And next week, we're going to spend time and we're going to add some other components to this, and we're going to bring in some new capabilities, and we'll show you where we've extended the accelerator to add things like timesheets, detailed effort-driven resource analysis, portfolio prioritization and optimization, and what-if scenarios. So all of that capability, you'll see one click of a button and I added a whole other set of capabilities to this demo. And next week, we're going to dive into all of that capability, building on top of where Microsoft's going, building on top of the Microsoft platform, the Power Apps and the Power components of the Power Platform, and on the accelerator itself and how it works, to add that additional capability for those who require that. Jim, with that, I can turn it back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Paul. Let me make sure that you can see my screen. And can you see my slide?
Sorry, I muted. I can, yes.
All right, terrific. So to wrap up what Paul was saying, this PPM accelerator really takes what's a simplified yet powerful scheduling tool for the browser in Power Project for the Web and unlocks the power of it and really springboards it into a PPM solution. Customers can personalize project and integrate it in their own organization's business process and workflows. And this PPM solution is built on the Power Platform and has a robust Dataverse repository, which gives us easy access to that data so that we can do from one source a lot of different things in analyzing that information for good decision support. And it's a flexible solution that can grow and be modified as your requirements evolve, whether it be different entities beyond just issues and risks and changes, whether it be other capabilities or fields of data that you need to capture to slice things in different ways. It's a flexible solution that you can take it where you want it to go. And this accelerator is a great way to get started and leap you forward in capabilities with before you actually add your own personalized touches to it. Now, one of the cool things here is that you may already own much of what is needed to do this. With the licensing and the entities that you saw here, the base entities of things like issues, risks, and changes, and projects and programs, that's going to come with the base Plan 3 or Plan 5 license. So what you've licensed to do the heavy lifting in Project Online, and if you own those licenses, you're going to get those capabilities and access to the capabilities that we saw with you here today. So if you're contemplating making the move at some point from Project Online to this new environment and this new platform, you may already own a bunch of what's there. This new solution, oddly enough, with the base things that you see here and the entities that Paul showed today, the new solution is priced very similarly to what Project Online is. And then what the nice part about it is it can be extended to provide new capabilities as needed. So your Plan 3 and Plan 5 licenses that you own, which was Project Professional and Project Premium formerly, those things give you access to these capabilities. The Project for the Web only license, which is Plan 1, that gives you the more limited capabilities, but the idea is that there may be folks that don't need the full Plan 3 and Plan 5, and as you build up a whole user base and ecosystem around your PPM solution, it's a mix of these that would be needed to flush out or fill out the roles and responsibilities in your solution. And we're happy to talk to you more about this in detail for your particular use case. And be rest assured, just as this is a key bet for Microsoft, Microsoft will continue to enhance this. You know, they've put out in their own words, you know, updates on new features that have come in and what's upcoming. And to that end, the Microsoft issued PPM or Project Accelerator has not been officially released yet. It should be out here in the next month or so for people to access in production. But in the meantime, just be aware that you can get started today. Because we are the authors of this accelerator, we do have early versions of this available. And out on AppSource, you can actually download and implement the PPM accelerator that we have out there today and get started with this if you want to trial it or use it in a preliminary fashion. There's no reason to wait. You can actually start exploring this now and see what kind of fit this might be for your organization. I think given the fact that we're involved with Microsoft in this gives us a unique ability to give you access to this as well as to support you in evaluating it. So next week, we're going to talk about OnePlan as the ability to further extend that Project Accelerator like Paul was alluding to into more full adaptive PPM solution. So you see the components here that we went through today in the solution in the base accelerator. But if you want to add, for example, more portfolio management capabilities, whether it be strategic alignment or strategy execution, whether it be more additional portfolio management capabilities, including things like detailed prioritization and what-if analysis, those things can be added by adding OnePlan, which is ready-made to plug into the accelerator. We also add the prioritization, financial management. We're talking about detailed financial management by cost categories and cost types and, you know, CapEx and OpEx and those types of things, as well as resource capacity planning to do things from either a top-down resource capacity perspective and tracking budgeted resources versus revised forecasts versus actual spent, and even tracking things like revenue or benefits on the financial side of things. These are things that all can easily be plugged in by adding OnePlan into the accelerator. And then being able to have a My Work area, a place where a resource can go or a person can go to see everything on their plate and be able to interact with it transactionally, as opposed to the reports that we saw, as well as people that need timesheets. We have a full timesheet capability that integrates fully and fuses in seamlessly into this accelerator. As well as for an adaptive PPM solution and kind of work the way you want, enterprises get what they need, being able to use a variety of tool sets, whether it be people that still have a need to use Project Professional on the desktop, in addition to the Project for the Web, people that are doing Agile with Azure DevOps, or maybe some other tools that are out there, to have connectors that will actually bring the data from an execution perspective into the accelerator and into the portfolio through connectors. That is something, if you look at the big picture, things that we can add and things we'll be covering in the next demonstration or the next webinar next week. On top of that, you might say, how do I get from where I'm at? We're also working with one of our partners on migration tooling. we have an early edition of a tool that will actually migrate your Project Online data to the Accelerator and into the Power Apps platform to be able to make that move into that data set so that you can get over there easily without having to do manual innovation or just do a hard cutover. So we can help you with that if you want to plan for that as well and see what it might take to get you to make the step over into the new platform. If you want to see more about the extensions that we kind of teed up a little bit today, next Thursday at the same time, we're doing a webinar called Meeting the Needs of the Modern PMO with the Power Platform in OnePlan. So if you go to oneplan.ai/webinars, you'll see a link to be able to register for that as you did for this webinar here today. So in summary, Microsoft is in the process of retiring Project Online. It's going to be here for a little bit, but stated that the investments are going into the new platform. And the new Microsoft solution is built on the Power Platform, and the PPM Accelerator being issued by Microsoft is being built in partnership with OnePlan Solutions. This new Microsoft solution does not, in this Accelerator, does not yet have full feature parity with Project Online, but the PPM Accelerator combined with OnePlan extends and goes even beyond the capabilities of what's in Project Online today, which really gives you a net gain at the end of the day. And for assistance, OnePlan will provide you the solutions, the services, and the support you might need to ensure customer transition and make sure you get value and have success in that transition. So for next steps, you might want to contact us about a free trial of what you've seen here today. We might even want to engage with you for a free roadmap workshop if you're interested in understanding how to get from point A to point B on this. We can talk to you a little bit about where you're at and what the steps might be and what it might take to make that transition for you. Or even if you just wanted to see more than just with the generalized high-level demo that we gave today, we can maybe personalize, do a one-on-one demonstration for you based upon your unique requirements for your organization. We're happy to do that for you. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach us at contact@oneplan.ai. And to just look at more of us, you can go to either www.oneplan.ai or www.ppmaccelerator.com for more information. So with that, we'd just like to thank you all for investing part of your valuable time in your day with us today. And we really hope to engage with you and help you make that move into the new modern landscape for Microsoft PPM. Have a great day, everybody.